Hello there, and welcome back to my little bit of Mexico. So this week, on Tuesday, is it Tuesday? Yes, Tuesday. It was the 17th of March, and it was St. Patrick's Day. It's crazy how St. Patrick's Day, St. Paddy's Day, not patties, as Americans seem to call it, St. Patrick's Day is celebrated around the world, especially the United States, where everybody seems to believe that they must be a little bit Irish, probably because on their grandmother's side they may have been scared by an Irish leprechaun, or some guy carrying a shamrock and the leprechaun being on their shoulder. Especially in places like Boston or Chicago, where they have green beer, colour the river green. It's bizarre, really. Here in Mexico, St. Patrick's Day is recognised as well, not in the same odd way that the Americans look at it, but in another way or for another reason. After all, Mexicans do enjoy to have a nice celebration. They do love a party or two, but that's not the reason why St. Patrick's Day is celebrated here in the way it is in Mexico. Sure, there are some Mexican bars in Monterrey, especially Mexico as well, Mexico City, and Saltillo. And there's a wonderful Irish bar in Saltillo, which, if you're ever there, visit it. It's called Dublin, and it is very traditional. It's a lovely place, just off the main historical part. It's a lovely place. You can get nice beers and Guinness as well, which seems to be part of the celebration. As I say, the celebrations for St. Patrick's Day here in Mexico are very different compared to those of the United States. During the Mexican-American War of the 1840s, in 1847, many Irish immigrants, as well as many Germans as well, who were part of the American army, decided to defect to the Mexican side. Many were, or all of them were Catholics, and were treated rather badly just because of their religion. And they were considered to be suspicious because they followed the Church of Rome and not the way that most Americans looked at religion. And just because of their religion, as they were Catholics, they were really treated in such a bad way, almost as in a worse way you would treat a dog. And so they were distrusted because of their links to being Catholic. And so they suffered a lot of punishment because of this, hardships, for no other reason than their religion. So because of the way they were treated, the Irish must have thought, well, fuck the Yanks. We'll join the Mexicans. The life looks better. Plus, their women are rather beautiful too. I think the beer's rather good as well. Please excuse that awful excuse for an Irish accent. Yeah. I've learned Irish from the Dick Van Dyke School of Language. So I'm sure, Germans influenced much of the brewing culture of Mexico. I'm sure the Irish must have introduced their own culture too, with stouts and red ales. And stout does seem to be a very popular style among many of the new Mexican brewers. Actually, there was a movie from, when was it, 1999, which was called One Man's Hero, which was about the leader of the San Patricios, the battalion, the brigade that switched sides from the Americans to Mexico. And the leader was a guy called John O'Reilly. And he was originally from County Galway in Ireland. And I think he was portrayed by the actor Tom Berenger. As I was looking for information for this video, I found that when these Irish and German soldiers who were part of the American army decided to change sides, it was considered one of the most significant defections from the American army to an enemy. More so than since the American Revolutionary War, when the US fought Britain to become independent. Apparently never before in the history of the United States Army had such a unit like the San Patricios been formed and defected to an enemy army. So the San Patricios, as they became known, had a flag which was a forest green, a very typical Irish green, with an gold Irish harp and the Gaelic words Erin Gobrach, Ireland forever. That was on one side, and on the other was the image of San Patricio, St. Patrick, the patron saint of Ireland, and below it the words St. Patrick. So during the Mexican-American War, the first of the battles that the San Patricios were involved in, as a Mexican unit, was in the Battle of Monterrey on the 21st of September 1846, and they were under the command of John O'Reilly. Apparently, they served with distinction and are credited with successfully repelling 2 assaults by the American army on the city of Monterrey. They were also involved in other battles during this war. The battles of Churubusco, Buena Vista, and Angostura. Actually, there's a small museum in Saltillo dedicated to the Battle of Angostura. And we came across it by chance. We were just walking from the center of Saltillo with the cathedral and the historical area, and we're walking down past what's called the Irish House and onwards. And we came across this museum, and it's dedicated to the Battle of Angostura, as I mentioned, and the San Patricios. It's a fascinating little museum. It really is very interesting, with the little diorama of the battle, posters from newspapers and other things. And for me, I love history, and I love learning more about history, especially here in Mexico. If you happen to be visiting Saltillo, then head down to the street Nicholas Bravo. It's at number 120 in the historic part of the center. as I say, not far from the Irish House. In the beginning, there were just 80 members of the St. Patrick Brigade, the Batallón San Patricios. But after the Battle of Monterrey, there was like a kind of, I don't know, maybe it was like a recruitment drive, but the numbers of members of the brigade increased tenfold. And it was estimated that after this, there were 800 members of this battalion. At the end of the Mexican-American War, many of the members of the San Patricios were captured by the US Army, and they suffered absolutely harsh reprisals just because they decided to fight for Mexico. And because they had caused many casualties among the American army during some of the fiercest of fighting. And many of the originals, including John O'Reilly, were given 50 lashes. They were whipped 50 times. They were then branded on both cheeks with hot irons with the letter D, meaning deserter. They were imprisoned and also sentenced to hard labor. Why so many things? Many of those who joined the Mexican army after the declaration of war, who were from the American army who came across to Mexico, were hanged en masse as traitors. And this happened on 3 separate days, the 9th, the 10th, and the 13th of September in 1847. On the 13th of September in 1847, the third day where the traitors were hanged, I should say, 31 soldiers, around that amount, were executed in Chapultepec in Mexico City under the orders of the commander of the American forces, General Winfield Scott. And at the precise moment that the United States flag was raised to the top of the flagpole to replace the Mexican flag at Chapultepec Castle, they were executed. Apparently now in Monterrey, I haven't seen it before. I've been along the Santa Lucia Riverwalk where it's located. There is a little plaza that says the Battle of Monterrey and the date 1846. The plaza is just after the street Calle Héroes de 47, the Heroes of 47, which just crosses over, and it's here. And there's also a very small museum. And I didn't know it was there. Apparently no. I don't know when it was installed, when it was created, but I can't remember seeing it the last time I came through the Santa Lucia from Parque Fundidora. But it's there. Must have been the last year or so. I haven't been there for a little while. And I really must learn a little more about the history of Monterrey, because I didn't realize what the name the Calle Héroes de 47 referred to, and it is the Battle of Monterrey. Yeah. I am dim when it comes to the history of the city that I live in. But anyway, I must visit it and do a little video from there. So, yes, I'm not really aware that much of the true history of Monterey. I must read up a little bit more, I guess. So, yeah, there's now this little museum just off of Calle de Héroes 47 and the river walk. Yeah, it's here now, and yeah, it looks interesting from what I saw on Google. But to learn even more about the history of the Battle of Monterey and the San Patricios, you really should head over to the Regional History Museum of Nuevo Leon, which is up at the Obispado. Lovely place. You got a great view across the whole of Monterey, even though there are a lot of tall buildings spoiling your view at times. But it is a wonderful museum. It's great. A lot about the history of the city, of the state, and it's a wonderful place. I've been there for a little while, but it is a great museum. So if you want to know more about the history, and I'm sure there are many people in Monterey who don't really know or appreciate the history of where they live. So if you are from Monterey, head on up to the Obispado. And if you are visiting Monterey, head up there as well and learn more about this northern city. So the San Patricio Battalion is commemorated on 2 separate days here in Mexico. The first, obviously, is the 17th of March, St. Patrick's Day. And you think, well, why do Mexico celebrate St. Patrick's Day? And that's the reason. The other is on the 9th of September, which is the anniversary of the first of the executions of the members of the San Patricio Battalion. In Mexico City, there is a neighborhood called San Angel, and here you will come across a monument that is dedicated in the Plaza San Jacinto to the battalion. And on it you will find a list of all the names of the Irish and the German members of the battalion when they were first formed. Also, in the hall of the Cámara de Diputados, the chamber of the deputies in Mexico City, the names of those of the battalion are inscribed in gold letters alongside those many other Mexican heroes. It's nice, isn't it? Yeah. In 1997, the president of Mexico at the time, Ernesto Zedillo, sorry about that, commemorated the 150th anniversary of the executions of those of the battalion in San Jacinto Square, where the first 16 executions took place. And at the same time, both Mexico and Ireland issued some commemorative stamps for this anniversary. Near the neighborhood of San Angel, there is a monument in a church by the name of Tlacopac, just referring to notes there, which is in Mexico City. And the monument consists of a Celtic cross with a commemorative plaque at the base. And on the plaque, it mentions that several of the executed soldiers were buried in the churchyard. I don't know, but I believe there is a monument which was given by the Mexican government that was erected in the hometown of John O'Reilly, the leader of the San Patricios, and it's in the town of Clifton in County Galway. So this is a song about the St. Patrick's Battalion, which was written by David Rofix. But I'm going to read this more as a poem, as I'm a terrible singer, and so I wouldn't want you to be subjected to my terrible singing, really. So, as I say, I'll read this as a poem. My name is John O'Reilly. I'll have your ear for a while. I left my dear home in Ireland. It was death, starvation, and exile. And when I got to America, it was my duty to go to enter the army and slog across Texas, to join in the war against Mexico. It was there in the pueblos and hillsides that I saw the mistakes I had made. Part of the conquering army with the morals of bayonet blade. So in the midst of these poor dying Catholics, screaming children, the burning stench of it all, myself and 200 Irishmen decided to rise to the call. Very poignant in many ways, isn't it? Anyway, thank you all for watching. Bye for now. See you all very soon.